Welcome to episode 2 of the War on Truth. We fight this war not for power, but for principle. Our mandate, the King's mandate, is the pursuit of justice for all, a quest Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. defined as the highest form of patriotism. And justice cannot be served when the facts are intentionally obscured. We begin with the defining wound in American history, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Our goal is not to substitute one theory for another. It is to take the official narrative and hold it up to the scrutiny of our 4-point analytical framework. We want to prove that to accept the Warren Commission's findings, you must consistently suspend your belief in physics, law, and motive. The conspiracy theory looks more and more like a conspiracy fact with each new analysis. In our previous seasons, we documented the Iron Grip, the global crime syndicate whose power was shielded by J. Edgar Hoover. By the early 1960s, that syndicate's survival was threatened by Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. RFK's crusade was seen by the mob, like Sam Giancana and Santo Trafficante Jr., as the Great Betrayal. After decades of providing great service to the U.S. government, from securing the docks to their deep involvement in the CIA's anti-Castro operations, they felt they had earned an untouchable status. RFK's pressure, which shattered their immunity shield and hit their drug profits, like the infamous French Connection bust, solidified the motive for revenge. The operation required not only a hitman, but a systemic guarantee of silence. The cleanup was performed by Jack Ruby, a nightclub owner with documented ties to major mob figures. Ruby's execution of Oswald while in police custody was the perfect eliminate and silence mandate in action. Ruby himself died in custody. This immediately raised the question of scale and plausibility. We ask, does the official story, the narrative of a lone, unstable gunman, explain the quick, professional execution of the assassin by a mob-connected figure? Or is a competing hypothesis that incorporates the existing mob motive and operational history a simpler, more coherent explanation? The trail of evidence was severed. The government's job was now simple: control the narrative. The cover-up did not begin with a lie. It began with an act of usurpation, a violation of the very principles upon which our government is founded. The law was clear. The assassination was a state crime in Dallas County, Texas. Jurisdiction belonged to the local medical examiner, but the federal government, driven by the need to control the narrative, compromised the legal framework right from the start. In the words of the Declaration of Independence, he has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. In Dallas, the government did not refuse assent, it physically obstructed justice. At Parkland Hospital, the Secret Service, citing national security, hijacked the president's body. They physically overruled the direct legal demands of the local justice of the peace. The body was flown immediately back to Bethesda, a federal facility, where a closed, compromised autopsy was performed. This act by the highest levels of the federal government was a fundamental betrayal. For abolishing our most valuable laws and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, It ensured two things: the prevention of the legally mandated independent civilian autopsy and complete federal control over the forensic evidence. The illegal seizure of the body was necessary to enforce the impossible conclusion of the Warren Commission. The cover-up required that we believe in contradictions of fact, physics, and primary testimony. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. The conflicting medical evidence. The civilian doctors at Parkland Memorial Hospital, the first medical professionals to examine the president, documented entrance wounds on the front of his body. This on-the-spot clinical assessment directly and profoundly contradicts the official finding of the Warren Commission, which insisted all shots originated from the rear. This is a perfect test of errant data. The official theory must dismiss this primary observation as a mistake, or the theory itself collapses. We reject theories that cannot successfully integrate or re-explain all major data points. The single bullet impossibility. The most famous contradiction, the magic bullet theory, required a single, nearly pristine bullet, Commission Exhibit 399, to cause 7 separate wounds in both men, while somehow defying the laws of trajectory and momentum. Governor Connolly, wounded by the shot, stated he did not believe the Commission's findings. This is the ultimate test of inference to the best explanation. The official theory requires a physical impossibility with high illogical assumptions, the magic bullet. A competing hypothesis that involves multiple shooters from different angles provides a simpler, more coherent explanation for the observed wounds and the state of the recovered bullet. The magic bullet theory will appear again in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The operational failure. Analysis of the Zapruder film shows that after the apparent first shot, the presidential limousine's driver, Secret Service agent William Greer, inexplicably slowed the vehicle to a near stop. This catastrophic violation of protective protocol gifted the assassins the necessary window for the fatal follow-up shots. You were asked to believe this critical pause was mere negligence. Following these contradictions, the federal government took the final, decisive step, placing a 50-year lockbox of secrecy on all sensitive evidence, including autopsy photographs, witness testimonies, and intelligence files. The fact that the release of the final, unredacted documents is still an ongoing political and archival process 6 decades later is the most profound proof of the official narrative's weakness. Why? Because this is the test of falsifiability. We ask, what single piece of evidence would prove the official story wrong? The official response is that the raw evidence, the autopsy photos, the unredacted files, must be withheld for national security. When the government prevents us from accessing the very evidence required to test their claim, their story moves beyond the realm of a testable hypothesis and becomes an unfalsifiable mandate. The assassination of President Kennedy was followed by the systematic destruction of the truth, all to protect the architects of a national crime. We have provided the evidence you must willfully ignore to accept the official narrative. The contradiction is the truth. This season, we are providing the tools to reclaim your consent and demand that our government adhere to the highest standard, the mandate of justice. Join us next time as we take this framework to the ultimate modern challenge, the 9/11 attacks.